I want you to take a look at where we are before we get started today because it's really incredible here. It's amazing. It's breathtaking. Okay, now down to business. Hi, I'm Sharon Renfro. At our Hearts and Minds at SharonRenfro.com, we believe that we must open our minds before we can open our hearts to one another. Now, this is a fundamental idea to a very different way to understand the psychology of relationships. This means that if we are going to have long-term, committed, meaningfully connected relationships, we have to think. Now, today's video is going to be about being a consistent self in relationships. And I'm going to talk about this from looking at the 3 steps of thinking and how we can understand that topic by thinking about it. I will initially give a brief definition of each step of thinking, followed by some examples so that you can learn how to translate this into your own relationship life. That way you can begin to use thinking to solve your own relationship issues. So the first step to thinking is to research, and that means that we gather pertinent and objective data. Number 1, often we don't back up what we say in our behavior. We behave, but it's very different than what we say we believe. So we're inconsistent. Number 2, the clue to whether or not we can be dependable to a relationship partner is if our behavior matches what we say. Who can depend on us if they can't believe what it is that we're telling them? Number 3, when we betray ourselves with behavior that we don't agree with, we also betray our relationship partner. Number 4, these inconsistent behaviors damage our relationships and result in unresolved and unresolvable relationship issues. Number 5, emotions. The instinctual lizard-like behaviors that we exhibit are at the root of our inconsistency, so we must begin to understand our emotions and be able to set them aside. The way to do that is with thinking. The second step of thinking is reason, and that means that we're going to take the objective and pertinent information that we've gathered, and we are going to use logic to form reason, to be able to deeply understand ourselves as well as relationship process. Number 1, we fail to move beyond instinctual behaviors in our relationship. Number 2, we depend on the most basic assessment of our relationship situation, the emotional assessment, to determine if we are safe or threatened. That's the only determination that we can make, and it's only consideration of the individual as we relate to our relationship partner. The relationship partner is not considered. Number 3, threat results in the experience of anxiety, and that leads us to instantly react with conflict, distance, pretend, or cut off, directed toward our relationship partner. These automatic emotional reactions cannot solve problems, but instead deepen problems and increases the sense of helplessness and hopelessness about our relationship. Number 4, apologies don't erase hurtful behavior. Once you've done the behavior, it's there, it's permanent. Number 5, if we had spent time defining who we are, we could quickly interrupt these emotional assessments that are far too basic to deal with multiple factors that need to be considered before we act. Now, the third step in thinking is reflection. And that means that we're going to use the deep understanding that we've developed before we act in order to consider that we are a part of a system. We're not alone. And we need to look at how our behaviors may have long-term consequences and consider our relationship partners as equally as we consider ourselves. That means we have to use empathy, and that is the highest order of thinking. Number 1, spend time defining your values. What's important to you? The beliefs. What beliefs do you have? What expectations about how your values influence your life? And then look at your principles. What behavior would reflect these values and beliefs? So principles are turning these values and beliefs into actions. Number 2, refer to these values, beliefs, and principles when an issue arises in your relationship versus using conflict, distance, pretend, or cut off. Number 3, take time to think through where you stand on a situation. And if it's outside of your defined values, beliefs, and principles, maybe there needs to be some correction. Number 4, let your relationship partner know that you're taking this time to think, so he or she doesn't have to wonder where you are. Now, we must open our mind in order to open our hearts to one another. If these ideas have been helpful to you, please like us. And you may find an expanded version of these ideas and a lot more information in our free podcast series, Our Hearts and Minds, The Psychology of Relationships, at SharonRenfro.com or Castbox. And from my heart, thank you for listening.